Uh,
Good morning, Wayne. This is Barbara Wash from the Department of Medicaid Services. How are you today?
Doing well, Barbara.
Okay, I have 10 o'clock, well, almost 10, all but 30 seconds, and it looks like we have a quorum. We can go over that, but I still have a few more coming on board, so I'll wait till the clearing room is cleared. Okay?
Yeah, just let us know when it's clear.
Okay. Okay, this is Barbara again from DMS. It's 10:01 and the waiting room is clear.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. And you've established that we have a quorum today.
Yes, we have Brad Schneider, Melanie Tyner Wilson, we have Johnny Kalebs, we have Ann Pierce, Sherry Ellis Reeves, Doug Hoyt, and I'm not sure if we have Frankie Hoffman. I was double checking that one. I don't I don't see Frankie or Rosie.
Okay. All right. The first thing I wanted to do is give a new member to the IDD TAC an opportunity to introduce himself. And Corey, if you or your staff person wants to go ahead and do the introduction that we discussed prior to the meeting, feel free. The floor is yours. Corey, I think your mic's still muted right now. So we're not hearing anything.
You said sorry about that. Hello. My name is going next. My name is Corey Nett. And an alum of Western Kentucky. An alum of Western Kentucky University. With the journalism and interested in those doing with a BA in journalism. and an emphasis on sociology and women's studies. And I am a lifelong, differently abled advocate. I'm very glad to be joining TAC.
Okay, is that all you wanted to say, Corey?
Yeah.
Not going to brag on yourself a little bit more?
No, no, oh, no.
Not right now.
All right, thank you, Corey. We welcome you to the IDD TAC. The next thing on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes for the last meeting. Does anybody want to make that motion?
So move.
Thank you, Doug. Does anybody want to second it?
I'll second.
Thank you, Brad. So, is there any discussion in regards to the meeting minutes? All right, all members in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Barbara, we've got the meeting minutes approved, so we'll move forward on into old business. Who's going to speak on behalf of the cabinet today, Barbara?
So
I've
this is
got some
Barbara. Yes.
Oh, Barbara.
Oh, it's Carmen Hancock.
Hey, Carmen, welcome back.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Harvey. How are you?
I'm doing fine, doing fine. Good to see you.
You too. Thank you. So I've got some updates from long-term services and support specifically. I wanted to let everyone know that we did go live with our child community health for improved lives and development waiver on January 1st. At this point, we have 2 providers that have been certified. And then we've got 7 more that are in process of being reviewed. We're actually going out tomorrow for our first 2 provider on-site visits for our residential services. So we're hoping to get those 2 moved on through and then have some certified residential providers as well. At this point, we've received 9 participant applications. One of those has been approved, and we've got 2 that are awaiting their assessment right now. So everything's moving right along with the child waiver. We're so pleased that we have had very few hiccups. I'm going to find some wood to knock on here. The regulations were filed with the LRC on January 7th. And we're currently in a 75-day public comment period. That's running through March 31st of this year. So I would encourage you all, we sent out email blasts, I believe last week and the week before, with links to where you can find those regulations to review and how to submit your public comment. If folks want that information, I can gladly send it to you separately. So that is very exciting. Is there anyone on who can give a better update, or we've got Rise next? Okay, great. So I'll wait for someone else to hit on that. Also, I wanted to let everyone know that we are launching a very large scale home and community-based services quality survey. We anticipate to be starting the survey sometime this month. And what that's going to be, there will be going out to participants, to guardians, phone calls, written letters, and there should be some remote blasts as well. And it's really important that we do have participation in this survey It's one of the, the things that we use to make our services better in the future. And these results also go to CMS. So it plays into ensuring that we continue to maintain our quality and performance measures and that sort of thing. So if you hear something about that, that it is a legitimate survey. We will have people calling and reaching out to gather information on home and community-based services quality measures. Um, Another note just to add is, as you all are well aware, the legislature is currently in session. So we are reviewing on a pretty daily basis proposed bills and amendments and things of that nature. So just in general, the Medicaid team has been incredibly busy since the beginning of session, and we plan to be through the end of session as we're reviewing and commenting and providing feedback on a daily basis with regard to proposed bills and amendments and that sort of thing. So that's going on with us right now as well. And I know that RISE is next on the agenda. I'm hoping that there's someone on who can speak to it.
Hi, this is Sherry Staley from DMS. Just an update about RISE. It's a 1915I state plan amendment. So while it functions like a waiver, it is different. The goal of RISE is to help Kentuckians with serious mental illness secure housing, access education and employment while thriving in their communities and avoiding institutionalization. I'm going to drop in the webpage in the chat so that people will have that information. There's information there on how to apply. There are 10 services that include respite for caregivers, transportation that is different than the non-emergency medical transportation Medicaid benefit, some home modifications, supported employment, and supported education, among others. We have launched and are live with this program. It's being administered by the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental and Intellectual Disabilities. And there's some participants that are already enrolled and several providers. They do come out and do site visits to ensure the providers are appropriate and continue offering that support along the way. So I'll pop that in the chat for everyone.
Sherry, do you have any information on how the enrollment process for the RISE waiver is going? Or, have there been any problems, or has it been smooth sailing, or?
Well, it's smooth sailing so far because it's starting out small, which is not a bad thing, right? We want to make sure that we're giving people the proper attention that we need. We've been holding office hours for for providers to come and ask questions. And if we don't have providers, then we can't serve those participants. So we're really rallying around the providers and supporting them. And then once a referral is made, someone can self-refer themselves. Then there's a screening process determining eligibility for the program. And so those take a little bit of time, but it's to ensure that the proper people get the services that they need. And there's a large team in the Department of Behavioral Health that's overseeing this, and they're all hands on deck. So we haven't heard of any problems yet. Like Carmen, I'm knocking on wood here. But yeah, it's going okay so far.
I see Johnny's got his hand up wanting to ask a question. Go ahead, Johnny.
Okay, thanks, Wayne. Thanks, Sherry. Uh, will all of the community mental health centers be providers for RISE?
We anticipate that, that is up to them. And if they see that that is something that they can provide, we do not have all of those enrolled as RISE participants currently. And we've sort of soft launched into a couple of regions, the Pennyroyal region, and one other. So we do anticipate that throughout this process, they will all come aboard. And they certainly have the opportunity to do that, but not all of those are enrolled at this time.
And then one more, if I may, are providers able to sign on who are not community mental health centers?
Yes, absolutely. It doesn't
Okay.
have to be a community mental health center. They just have to be able to provide the 10 services and meet the Medicaid enrollment requirements.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Sherry on the RISE initiative?
Wayne, this is Melanie. Can I ask a question?
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead, Melanie.
And I think Ann Holden came
Ann
and
Holland.
Holland. I think she came and talked to our Autism Society meeting in January, and I just helped me to understand it's mental health, but there can be other co-occurring developmental disabilities as well. Am I correct in that assumption?
That is correct. Someone has to have the serious mental illness diagnoses that would apply, and there has to be supporting documentation. But yes, people can also have co-occurring disorders as well.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have a question for Sherry before we move on the agenda? Do you see anybody else, Barbara?
I don't see any other hands raised,
I
but I
have
do
the-
see
I
Sherry
have a-
put in.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ann.
I don't see that where you dropped that. Oh, there it is. Never mind. Thank you. Sorry.
I was a little slow there.
Any other questions for Sherry? Okay, thank you, Sherry. Appreciate you. The next agenda item is, well, I think Carmen already spoke about the child waiver program, but are you going to speak to the waiting list numbers and so forth, Carmen, or is somebody else doing
Yes,
that?
sir.
Excuse
No, I
me,
can
Wayne.
do that.
Excuse me. I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I had questions about those other ones, and I didn't know that I was supposed to ask them at that time. But I had a question about the HCBS quality survey.
Mm-hmm.
Will that be sent to all participants?
I will have to check on that, and I don't think so. I think it was just a percentage. Um, and I believe they were just randomly selected. But I can get confirmation on that.
Okay, great. I think it's important to give everyone an opportunity to comment. I don't know that very many
Mhm.
people will, but that's just my suggestion.
Okay.
And then I had a question about the reviewing proposed bills.
Yes, ma'am.
When will you do this? You said you're going to provide feedback. Who are you going to provide that to?
We're doing that every day, sometimes multiple times a day.
To
So,
provide feedback to whom?
to the legislature.
I see.
So we're seeing the proposed bills, proposed amendments, that sort of thing, as they're being released on a daily basis. And we have a very short period of time to review all of those documents and provide feedback, responses, clarification or that sort of thing to propose changes and how they might impact our programs.
So is there somewhere that IDD TAC members can see your recommendations?
I believe I saw Nicole on here. I don't know that I thought I saw
I
Nicole
am
Lewin.
here.
Okay, there we go.
So our the reviews that we send back through, those just go through our internal process into the legislature. The bills are all posted to the LRC website, so anybody in the public can go on and look at the bills. But the cabinet reviews are internal to LRC in the cabinet.
So we're not allowed to see your review.
Right, those stay with the LRC.
Well, I would like to see them. I think it's important for TAC members to see your opinions on the bills. Just throwing that out there. And then I had a question about the child waiver.
Yes, ma'am.
You said you had 2 residential providers. Can you give details on those at all?
Well, we have 2 providers that we're going out to tomorrow to do their initial pre-service inspections at their sites. These are both located in Louisville. And we go out and do our pre-service site inspection. So make sure that they're safe, make sure that they meet all of our settings rule requirements, make sure that we have the appropriate policies, procedures, evacuation plans, locks, all of the things. So we're going out to do their inspections tomorrow. And then that would be sort of the next step in whether they were to get certified or not.
Thank you.
But we do have 2 other providers that already are certified. And they are, one of them is a case management provider, and the other is case management, community living supports, clinical therapeutic services, and so on.
So all these providers fall under HCBS settings rule?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other
Okay, anything
questions?
else?
Any other questions for Carmen on the updates that she's already spoken to before we get on to the waiting list numbers and so forth? I don't see any other hands, Carmen. So go ahead and proceed with the waiting list stuff.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So updates on the waiting list for the now 7 1915C waivers. We don't have anyone on the waiting list for ABI acute for the new child waiver or for Model 2. We did have 3 folks pop up on the waiting list for ABI long-term care waiver, but I want to caveat that with we do have available slots, so we're working to get those allocated quickly and clear that back out. The HCB waiver, the total on the wait list right now is 6,019. Michelle P is 9,806. And then SCL is 3,813. That's an unduplicated total, just the number of individuals across all of the waivers is 16,792. And if we have time at the end, I did go ahead and bring a presentation on the new business item at the bottom regarding the waiting list, so we can talk more about this later as well.
Any questions in regards to the waiting list numbers? And thank you, Carmen. Yeah, we did have we did request a presentation on the waiting list and so forth. So I'd seen several different presentations on the waiting list from different people from DMS at the cabinet level. So I figured that wouldn't be too hard to pull up and bring and present. So.
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody have an update for us on the PDS services?
Sure. This is Marnie Mountjoy with the Department for Aging and Independent Living. We have, let's see, 63 agencies have been certified to provide case management services for PDS. That's going to be the 15 area development districts, 14 community mental health centers, and there are 34 independent case management agencies that are certified to provide PDS. And there are 7 agencies that are in process for their review to get PDS case management certification. And we collect lists from the case management agencies on people that have expressed interest in PDS services. Now, this is not it's not an accurate number because there is duplication across the list. So people will call multiple case management agencies and get on interest lists. But we've identified names that are not even approved for waiver yet. So this is not an accurate number, but it's 699 people have expressed interest in PDS services. And that's all I have for the group.
Any questions for Marnie on the PDS services? Go ahead, Johnny.
Hey, thanks, Marnie. Are these numbers that you gave, are they specific to SCL?
No, it's PDS across the board. If you're interested in SCL specific case management agencies, I can get those numbers.
Oh, that's okay. I was just curious. So the numbers you gave are across all waivers
Correct.
that allow PDS.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Marnie? Thank you, Marnie. Appreciate you. Okay. Involuntary termination summary report. Do we have Elizabeth on with us or somebody from DDID to give that report?
Elizabeth's out today, so she sent the numbers to me. I'm Blair Close with DDID. So I will go through the involuntary termination numbers. Total number of involuntary terminations in the past year for all services was 60. Of those of the last year for residential only was 42. Within the past 6 months for all services was 24. And within the last 6 months for residential only was 17 of those 24. There has been 0 involuntary terminations within the past month. And of the total involuntary terminations of all services within the past year that have not transitioned to new providers yet, there were 12, and 11 of those were residential.
Thank you, Blair. Does anybody have any questions for Blair on the termination numbers themselves?
This is Melanie. Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead, Melanie.
Excuse me. Blair, would you mind to go back through? I kind of got lost in all the numbers and help clarify what everything means.
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Thank you.
So, of all the involuntary terminations for all services,
Blair, this is Barbara from DMS. We can't hear you.
can you hear me now? Okay, sorry. My computer does that sometimes, so I have to unmute and then mute back. So for the total number of involuntary terminations of all services for the past year, there were 60. So 60 total involuntary terminations of all services. Of those, 42 of them were for residential services. So 42 residential involuntary terminations in the last year. And then I broke it down into the last 6 months as well. So for the past 6 months for all services, it was 24. And then 17 of those were residential. And then there's been 0 involuntary terminations in the past month. And then for the past year, for all services of those that have not transitioned to a new provider yet, so basically those that are still kind of open, there were 12 for all services. 11 of those were residential. So there's 11 that are still open from the mainly the past 6 months for residential, and then one for in a different service besides residential.
Thank you for this. Where I get confused when you say all services, could somebody lose all services on their?
No, so I should
Oh, no.
clarify that. That's a
Okay.
good question. So all services just means of any service that's provided. Most of the involuntary terminations do come residentially, but sometimes there are involuntary terminations for other services. Those are all just grouped together from all to all services, not meaning that one person lost all services, just all the services that are eligible.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, Anne, I see your hand is up.
Thank you, Blair. Am I unmuted? Good.
Yes, ma'am.
I I recall asking for disability diagnosis of those in residential who are unable to transition. I wonder if Elizabeth, or I know I asked Elizabeth, and I'm sure it just got lost in the shuffle.
I
But
will follow up on that. We are also, I'll just mention, we are having meetings to try and determine potential better systems for tracking of this information in MWMA. So hopefully that will help in the future as well to get kind of a more rounded look. But I will follow up with Elizabeth about you said disability diagnosis for those specifically in residential.
right, that are unable to transition.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Blair? I don't see any, Blair, so I think you're off the hook.
All right. Thank you all.
All right. Corey?
Yeah, Corey has a question, please.
Okay. Not so quick, Blair.
No, I don't know if it's fulfilled on the both and the old. But in the updates, the good of
Is there anything about a 60-day cutoff? Is that what you said?
the and the
60 days after termination?
So there has been, I think what you may be talking about, Corey, there has been some like recommendations about putting limits on how long an involuntary termination can be active. Is that maybe what you're referring to?
yeah.
As of this point, the regulations don't have any sort of term limits on that. But that is something that's been, talked through and discussed in about this system.
Yeah, I did want to go on the record that I do not think it's a good idea. What would that do with that?
I just want to go on the record that I don't think it's a good idea.
But the government become almost all what of the government to do with the
So are they going to become homeless, or what are they going to do without services?
Blair, I think I can address that if you'd like. Corey, there was basically a recommendation that came out of this IDD TAC that was forwarded for informational purposes to the Department of Medicaid Services. And we received a response from the MAC recommendation from DMS. That is an agenda item later in this agenda today that we can certainly discuss that. I don't know, Barbara, was he sent a copy of the letter that DMS had sent us back in regards to their response to the recommendation?
So
You know.
Wayne, yeah, I did not have his email address at that time when I sent that out, but I will definitely forward it to him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Barbara will make sure that that gets forwarded to you, and you'll be able to see the response in its entirety. And basically, without getting too much into discussing an agenda item that's after the presentation and stuff, we'll discuss more about that so that you'll get a better insight in regards to that, if that's okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Blair before we move on from the involuntary termination numbers? Okay.
Oh, I do. I'm sorry. It takes me a while to unmute. Blair, and I don't know if you're the right person, but I just would like to say again that I would like to be informed of the DMS feedback to legislators on proposed bills. And it looks like maybe we're going to discuss that a little bit too in under number 6. But maybe I'll contact you separately. Or
I am not with DMS, so if you want to talk to DMS, I'm with DDID, which is separate from DMS.
Right.
So
Right. So never mind.
yeah, we are not a part of all the bill reviews that they are doing.
I will just write DMS. I'm sorry.
Any other questions for Blair before we let her go? Thank you, Blair. I appreciate it. Under new business, presentation and discussion for waiting lists of all 1915C waiver programs. Carmen, are you still with us? Are you the one that's going to do that presentation? Okay.
Yes, sir. I've got it. I'm going to try to, Barbara, can I take over and share my screen?
Yes, I'm going to unshare right now.
Okay.
Okay, there you go, Carmen.
Let's give this a go. Okay. Move this guy out of the way. Okay, can you all see?
We can see your screen.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay. So based on the requests and like you said, Mr. Harvey, we have presented on wait lists and wait list management several times recently. So we did go ahead and bring some of the information for your review today. So I'll just go ahead and get started. We have 7 now, 1915C home and community-based waiver programs. And I know that many of you all know will know these, but just to go through, we have the acquired brain injury, home and community-based services, the Michelle P. waiver, the acquired brain injury long-term care waiver, the Model 2 waiver, SEL, supports for community living, and then the new child waiver. So these are 7 1915C waiver programs. In order to sort of talk about the waitlist process, we really need to sort of go through what the entire application process looks like from the start. So obviously for anyone who's wanting to apply for waiver services, and I'm just speaking right now really about the waiver application process, please do keep in mind that the application process for Medicaid is separate and it's running at with a different group at a different speed than a waiver application would be. So this is for an application for waiver services. The first step obviously would be to apply. This bubble says apply at connect.ky.gov. You could use that as a resource to complete your application. Other methods to do that would be to go to your local CMHC or AAA. They can also help you submit applications for waiver services. So the application is received. It's reviewed by a group um, of nurses or quality reviewers, and they determine based on the information that's provided if the applicant meets those initial targeting criteria to potentially qualify for the waiver. It's just a very cursory review based on initial documentation. Do we think that this person meets minimum eligibility criteria, yes or no? If yes, then they are then pushed to the next step, which would be having a slot reserved. Now, if there are no available slots on a waiver, then that's where you're waiting. This is where your waiting list comes in this process. So, for instance, we don't have a waiting list for our child waiver. So as people come in, as we were receiving applications, we're immediately assigning them to slots and they're going on to the next step. If we didn't have slots, this is where we would put them on a waiting list. Some of the waivers, which we went through earlier, do have waiting lists, some do not. So based on the number of people that are on the waiting list, that sort of determines that time between that slot where you're on a waiting list to, okay, your slots come open, your slots come available. We're going to allocate that slot to you, and then the other steps take place. So just briefly going through those, we would complete the assessment based on the waiver program. So there's a different assessment for the different programs. For the HCB waiver, it's the K-HAT. For our child waiver, it's the CANS. For SEL, it's the SIS assessment. So the assessment's going to be conducted, and based on the information that was gathered during the application process, any other documentation that's been provided in conjunction with the assessment that's conducted. Again, there's another team of nurses, and this can also go up to MD level review if needed. But there's another team of folks who reviews all of that documentation to determine if this participant does meet the level of care requirements for the specific waiver program that they're applying for. If yes, then we move on to, yay, you've been approved. Everything's good. So you find your case manager, get your person-centered team together and start working on writing that person-centered service plan. Then that gets submitted, approved, and services can begin. So I wanted to kind of go through the whole process so you can see where the waiting list piece fits in there. Any questions right now? Okay. So understanding the waiting list process. This would be, like I said, when individuals do meet that targeting criteria, but they can't immediately access services because we don't have, enough slots there. The position on the wait list is maintained until a slot becomes available. And the wait lists at this point are first come, first serve, except for with the SEL waiver, we do have that opportunity for, urgent or emergency situations that may come up that might push someone up on the waiting list. But the vast majority are first come, first serve. There is some outreach that goes out annually. There's a letter that gets kicked out around the 1 year mark for each person, just letting them know that they are on the waiting list. Giving them some information about who to contact if they need to make updates, to their case or to their file. And then if they, for whatever reason, did not want to be on the waiting list anymore, they can remove themselves from the waiting list. There is communication that's sent out annually. And then again, I've already mentioned this, but the wait time would vary based on the number of CMS approved slots. And then, how many are allocated, what we've got reallocated, available funding, etc. Okay. So these are actually the same numbers that I went through earlier today with regard to the waiting list. We update these at least once a week. So this is the data as of yesterday. So that's what our waiting list numbers look like currently. And like I said, I went through this earlier. We don't have anyone on ABI acute, child, or Model 2's waiting list. I did mention ABI long-term care here. It shows 3 on the waiting list, but we do have available slots. And we do have some folks that are allocated that aren't going to work all the way through their application process. So we'll get these 3 off that waiting list pretty quickly. There is a caveat down there at the bottom I wanted to call out. The cabinet we do have to develop an allocation plan. So when we get those newly appropriated slots, we do have to create a plan for how those are going to be released based on the waiver program. Obviously, this is to maximize the individual's movement from the allocation process to the actual utilization of services and to reduce the risk of a bottleneck that could be caused by provider overcapacity if we just released all of those slots at once. The provider network just sort of can't handle that volume. Okay, a little bit more of a breakdown of information about the content of the waiting list. So based on the waiver program, this is the average amount of time. This is the amount of time that someone would be waiting on a waiting list. Again, broken out by the waiver program. And then down here at the bottom is per waiver, the maximum days that someone has been on a waiting list, and then the average number of days on a waiting list. And again, this is based on data as of yesterday. Okay, so let's get into what a slot sort of means. So unduplicated slots in the waiting list. CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, does require waiver slots to be unduplicated. So one slot can only belong to one person. CMS defines an unduplicated waiver participant as, I'm going to quote this, a unique individual who participates in the waiver during a waiver year, regardless of when the individual entered the waiver and length of stay on the waiver. A person who enters, exits, and re-enters the waiver during a waiver year counts as one unduplicated waiver participant. So the way that I like to think of this is think of each participant as the owner of their slot. If they were to leave the waiver for any reason, sort of outside of death, if they were to leave the waiver for any reason during the waiver year, they still own that slot. And that slot can't be reallocated to anyone else during that waiver year that we're in. We have to wait until the waiver year is over. And on a fun note, the waiver years for each of our waivers are different. So we're tracking out those participants on a different schedule for the waivers. The waiver year is based on when the waiver itself was approved, when the waiver application was approved, and the time frame that was provided at that time. So a waiver year might be August through July, whereas another waiver might have a waiver year of March through February. So this only applies to slots held by participants who are not receiving services at the end of the waiver year. If a participant is actively receiving services when the waiver year ends, they become the owner of their slot again for the next year. Just to get into some of the complexity of the content of the waiting list. And I'll go through this, but then I want to sort of pop back to the actual waitlist figures. So 14.5% of the people on a waiting list are on more than one waiting list. So let's take that 14.5% and go right back here. So this is the total individually on each waiting list. This is just a raw total. This 16,792 is your unduplicated total. So that's where we're seeing the difference of 14.5% of people are included in more than one of these buckets. 31% of the people on waiting lists are already allocated in another waiver. So again, going back to our slide here, 31% of the people in these sections are already receiving services in another waiver. What we see very commonly is that we have folks who are maybe receiving HCB waiver services. That's traditionally had sort of the shortest wait time, but they've got themselves on both the Michelle P. and the SCL waiting lists. So yes, they're in HCB, they're actively receiving services, but they may still be counting as a 1 and a 1 here for both Michelle P. and SCL. All right. In addition, 94% of the people who are on any of those waiting lists already have Medicaid and are already able to receive state plan services. So the vast majority of folks who are on one of those waiver waiting lists already have Medicaid and can actively receive Medicaid services. So while someone is on the waiting list, obviously, if they already have Medicaid, then it might be a state plan Medicaid services or services through one of our managed care organizations. For those who are under the age of 21 and who are enrolled in Medicaid, they have access to EPSCT services. There are a host of community-based services, nonprofit organizations, and just other sort of regular businesses out there that can provide services and supports that don't require a waiver enrollment or anything of that nature at all. In each area of the state, there are state general funds that agencies have access to for emergency services or for folks who need services but don't yet have a waiver slot. There are local supports, like I said, there are advocacy resources, there are nonprofit organizations, and all sorts of other community organizations, like your community action groups that keep track of those services that are available. Also, while someone is on the waiting list, they might be covered through regular insurance, through an employer or through a spouse or a parent, and be receiving health coverage through that source. So those are just some of the options for people while they're on the waiting list. I did mention this earlier, but just to reiterate, there is at least an annual communication that goes out to members who are on a waiting list. We confirm that they're on the waiting list based on the waiver. So in the example that I gave earlier, if someone is on more than one waiting list, they're going to get 2 letters letting them know, hey, you're still on the waiting list for Michelle P, and then you're still on the waiting list for SCL, or whatever those look like. But there is a letter that's sent out every year. Not only does it confirm that you are maintaining your slot on the waiting list, again, it encourages folks to double check that their information is correct with both DCBS and Social Security Office. It also provides resources that can be accessed while you're on the waiting list. And then it provides information for both an email address and the phone number where they can reach out to our 1915C waiver help desk at any time for information and assistance or updates. The waiver help desk is actually just right here in the hallway right across from me, so I can hear those folks talking all day. And one of the most frequent calls that they receive is from folks who are actually checking on their spot on the waiting list. So that's another way to sort of keep up to date there. And I think the last one would be questions. So that is our general website. Um, Obviously, we can provide additional resources for questions, but I'd love to field any right now if we have time. Wayne?
Sure, absolutely. We've got plenty of time. Johnny, go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you, Wayne. Thanks, Carmen, for all that information. Very helpful. I just had a couple questions. Um, the annual letter that goes out to waitlist members are, if you don't get a response from the person, are they then removed from the waiting list? Do they have to take some kind of action in order to remain on the list?
No, sir. No,
Yeah.
sir. This I actually reviewed those letters again just this week. It is a very much sort of a passive letter, just letting you know. There is no action that needs to be taken by the person to remain on the waiting list.
Okay, thank you. And
Mhm.
one more, the back to your discussion on the unduplicated slot,
Yes.
I guess definition. Is it still uh, the way it's operating? Is it still that if a person uh, dies or moves away or for whatever reason no longer wants waiver services, then that uh, slot allocation can then be given to someone else, even if it's in the middle of a waiver year?
So yes and no, because you
Okay.
you sort of combine things there, Donnie. Okay,
Okay.
so
Okay.
in the instance of death, or if someone is at the they've just been allocated their waiver slot, brand new, and for whatever reason, as they're working through the assessment process or the documentation process, it's determined they no longer qualify. So death, or in that scenario I just described, those slots can be reallocated essentially immediately. We usually turn them over the next month. In all of the other scenarios, so someone's moved, um, they got a slot in another waiver and they've moved over to that other waiver. They no longer require the services, whatever other those other reasons may be, that is their slot. They still own it until the end of the waiver year. So we cannot reallocate those um, until the
Okay.
end of the waiver year. Yes, sir.
So only death or ineligibility
In Yes,
would
exactly.
give immediate reallocation of a slot.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
correct.
All right. That helps. Thanks for explaining it.
Yes, sir. And I had, and just to caveat there, because this has come up, um, in the last few months, that's not a Kentucky decision. That's obviously a CMS requirement. So that's how we have to do it. Yeah.
Okay,
Ann, I see your hand up, ma'am. Oh, sorry.
that's what I was going to do. I was just going to call on Ann, and then we'll get to Corey's question.
Yes, thank you. Um, Trying to lower my hand. Um, I'm sorry, my daughter's almost here, and I'm just trying to get ready for her, and so I'm a little distracted. So, and Johnny touched on this a bit about when slots become available, and you have so much time to respond. This is this is all really involved. Um, what if a slot becomes available? You're notified, you get services, but then you're still not able to get a provider. I mean, do you get to keep your waiver if no provider will accept you? And I know y'all know my daughter is profoundly autistic and she gets services, thank goodness. I've had to fight for them. Um, but I do know people would, for lack of a better word, have an empty waiver because their child, no provider's willing to serve their child. And that said, as far as profoundly autistic people, is DMS doing anything to consider the needs of this population?
I want to make sure I get everything responded to. So in the majority of the waivers, so not the child waiver and not Model 2, um, there are multiple service delivery options. So meaning that the other 5 waivers have a participant directed service option and a traditional service option. So so that comes in very handy. The PDS piece, especially in remote, but like very remote parts of the state where there are sort of a lack of providers for certain types of services. That's where a PDS service delivery model could come in really, really handy. So lack of provider, not being able to find a provider. Um, I don't know that that's one that I've heard very often, Anne. There is a time frame. So once you're allocated and you've gotten all of your authorizations and everything, you are required to start services within 120 days. So there is, it's not an immediate thing. There is some time there to make sure that someone can find a case manager and develop that plan of care and that sort of thing. Um, so I hope that helps with that portion of the question. The question about our what are we doing or what are our plans for additional services in the future for certain specific populations, like those who are profoundly autistic. Um, the child waiver right now that's just come out really could be geared to that population who are younger, because this is only up to the age of 21. Um, but for future plans, I mean, we're always looking for looking for ways to impact and support the most amount of people as possible, and um, yeah.
So again, I do know people um, who have the SCL waiver, but their child is so hard to watch. I don't know that DMS is. I would like to sit down and talk to someone there about this disability, because it's tragic, the service amount of energy it takes, and it's just impossible to find providers willing to invest that time and energy, even case managers. So, is it possible for me to sit down and talk to someone in the department?
Sure, I'm sure that we could schedule that, sort of separately outside of the body of the TAC meeting.
That would be great.
Mhm.
Should I send you an email?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
And what is your address?
It's going to be here. I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Now, don't everybody go crazy and start sending me all the emails. I'm just kidding. You can send me the email.
It'll just be the profound autism moms, probably.
Let me
Okay, let's go ahead and get Corey's question.
Yeah, I did have a good boy.
I just have a couple questions.
Mhm.
No, number one, if we have nothing available with the both of this, and someone with the officers, I do not understand why we have the right of the end of the
So if we have thousands of people waiting for services and then someone stops using the service, why do they have to wait an entire year before it goes to the next person?
Good question.
Oh, it's a great question. That goes back to the way that the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services have structured the 1915C waiver program at a federal level. They don't allow us to turn those slots over. Um, if someone just stops using services, um, that waiver slot does sort of stay reserved for them for the remainder of that waiver year. And again, that's not a Kentucky thing. That's a federal CMS requirement in terms of how the waivers are managed.
No, there is no the wicked will call.
So that's not something we can work on then, I guess.
It's not, unfortunately, Corey, not that particular piece.
And
My other question,
there is someone and more than the better circumstances.
you said if someone has an emergency or special circumstance,
They might be able to move on.
they might be able to move up.
That's exactly right, Corey. So on the SCL waiver, um, if someone were to have, and when I think of an emergency, and my apologies for the example, but this is what I'm envisioning. What I would envision is, you have a member, you have someone who's in the care of, they're still living with their mom and their dad, right? And mom and dad likely are in a position where they have guardianship and they're managing things for that particular participant. Um, let's say that mom and dad both tragically died in a car accident at the same time, leaving that person without a support system, without a home, without a guardian or other, resources to just manage day to day. That would be an emergency situation where in the SCL waiver you could get bumped right up and start working on your plan right away. But it would have to be in a case of something like imminent homelessness, um, uh, complete loss of caregiver or commute caregiver network system, that sort of thing.
That the I have been the have moved the people in from another because the morning that was given the old the people.
I asked that question because I have a friend whose sister moved from another state and she's going to take care of her here in Kentucky because the parents are getting too old back in New Jersey.
Oh, yeah.
Would that be an emergency situation?
Corey, I'd want to look at it, the whole thing and all the details separately. And I'd be happy to have that conversation with you later if you want. Okay.
That'd be
Just
great.
shoot me an email.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Carmen on the waiting list information from the presentation she made? Okay, Carmen, you've already touched a little bit on the initiatives that CHS has for the current legislative session. Do you have anything to add to anything that you've already discussed?
I don't really, and I did want to see if we might have had anyone else join that that could offer a little bit more context from different areas. Um, I'm not really seeing. I was
See,
hoping
Johnny's
we
got
had.
his hand up, so he's going to ask you a question anyway.
Okay, Johnny, go for it.
Oh, thank you. Uh, just about the legislative session and the budget in particular, I know the uh, governor's budget does contain a request for funding for more waiver slots.
Hmm.
So, but the only, I guess so far the legislature has not put any numbers, attached any numbers to that. So, I'm just curious, kind of where that lies right now, as far as the waiting list just keeps growing exponentially, it seems like, and then uh, governor's budget does contain a request for extra slots. So far, the legislative one doesn't. Do you all plan to make the case for more funding for uh, the wait list?
So you know, this conversation has come up. Like you said, the governor's budget does contain. He did, you know, mention the slots. Um, the budget right now at the House and Senate level um, has not been sort of finalized. So we are exactly where you alluded to us being, and that is with the same information as you have. Um,
Okay.
so I mean, obviously we will make the case to the extent that we can, that's acceptable and allowable. Um, but we do not have a sense for how that's going to come out in the end.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Any
Wayne,
other questions or anything?
Wayne, this is Melanie. Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
So, and Carmen, that was a great presentation. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. The one slide that you had on waiting list that you put it out to 5 years. Do you have anybody that has been on the waiting list that's like at the 10-year mark or 15, 20-year mark? I pray that that's not the case, but um, have there been people that have been waiting for longer than 5 years?
So I'm looking at, uh, well, to answer the question, yes. There are people who have been waiting for over 5 years. In this particular data pool, I don't get the specifics past that, but I can certainly get it, Melanie.
Oh, that would be wonderful because it might be helpful um, as we talk to our own legislators, like Johnny was maybe
Hmm.
alluding to that to help us build a case, to support justification for why we're advocating for this kind of thing. Well, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. That and all of that support helps. Hmm.
It's a journey.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions for Carmen? I don't see anything else, Carmen. So thank you
Thank
for
you,
the
sir.
presentation.
Mhm.
It was informational. Thank you. The next thing on the agenda is discussion of IDD TAC meeting dates. I think all the TAC members were sent an email indicating the dates that are available. If we wanted to look at changing the meeting time for the meeting dates for the IDD TAC meetings, and Barbara had to research extensively to get us uh, three different options to look at. Obviously, the original schedule is an option to keep it on Tuesdays, And then the other two options that were made available was some meetings on Mondays or having the meetings take place on Friday. I did get some feedback from Corey prior to the meeting indicating that it would be his preference if the meeting stayed on Tuesday due to scheduled therapies and so forth that he and his caretaker attend. So I think that's something to consider. As far as I go, Tuesdays are okay with me. They don't, I don't know that we gain any more access to DMS staff, which is one of the things that I asked Barbara and the DMS staff that we work with, and they indicated they cannot guarantee that we will be granted any more access to DMS staff, whether the meetings take place on Monday, Friday, or Tuesdays. So that's something to consider in looking at all this. So with that, if anybody needs to make any comments or anything before we try to look at making a decision on the future of when IDD TAC meetings are going to take place, I'll yield the floor to anybody that wants to make a comment. Go ahead, Ann.
Oh, I'm wondering why in the first place did they recommend we move our meeting day? I mean, that's kind of confusing to me. If they don't,
I think that comment was made by just a presentator that attended one of our meetings. I don't think that was somebody that had overall knowledge of the availability of all DMS staff. So, that may have been something that became a misnomer for us. I do know that there's a huge departmental meeting that takes place on Tuesdays for Medicaid.
Yes.
Yeah. That's something that has been made known to us. But I also know that there's numerous meetings that take place on Mondays and I'm sure that some that take place on Friday as well. I think Friday historically is a terrible day for meetings because of a lot of different things that could influence attendance if we were to move it to that particular day. So just some things to consider. Johnny.
Wayne, that was me. I'm the one who mentioned the date. And I think it was either the last TAC or the one prior, because we do have a commissioner's level and division director level meeting. It just happens to fall on the same Tuesday of the month as this meeting does. So that's what that is.
Johnny, go ahead.
Yeah, my comment is I'm okay with leaving it as is. Mondays and Fridays, if folks are trying to take a long weekend or are on vacation, usually a Monday or a Friday is involved. So I think you're right, Wayne. It might, affect attendance going forward. So I would be fine leaving it as is.
I'm fine with that also. Any day's fine with me. Any day's fine. It sounds like it's best for Corey too.
Can
Can I make a comment?
Sure, go ahead, Corey.
So it's the first Tuesday of the month? He's just saying, would another Tuesday be better than the first? For that department. For her concern about the department meetings?
I think the issue would be in regards to that is we don't have that as an option.
Right.
different Tuesday than the one that's researched, because the thing we have to do is ensure that the Zoom link and everything that we do these particular meetings on is available for the entirety of that schedule. So the schedules that I sent out via email is what we've got that's approved.
Oh,
So Wayne, and Corey, this is Barbara from the Department of Medicaid Services. We have 16 other tax that we have accounted for. So the dates that I had provided that were second and third were dates that were open and available for you all. So again, I apologize, but it's how the tax fall. So
Yeah.
and so that's the reason why we came up with those second and third dates.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Barbara, because I was getting ready to get around to that point, because also the MAC utilizes the same Zoom link, and some other meetings that Medicaid does utilizes the same Zoom link. So it's not just us
Yes.
that is trying to use that particular Zoom link. So any other feedback before I just go ahead and have Barbara just go down through the row and ask, what the preference is from each member, and we'll go with whatever the majority is.
So Brad had come back. I prefer to continue with existing meeting schedule.
Mhm.
And Anne said that it didn't matter either way. Melanie, do you have a preference? I don't know if Melanie's still on the,
Yeah,
there
I'm
she
still here.
is.
No, I'm fine to continue with the existing meeting schedule.
Okay. Wayne,
I'm good with Tuesdays.
okay. And Cheryl or Sherry,
Yes, I'm good with Tuesday.
okay. And we are missing Frankie Hoffman. So
We can
every,
email Frankie and ask him what his opinion is, but it sounds like Tuesday's going to carry it anyway, Barbara.
okay, sounds like a plan.
Okay, thank you.
Hmm.
Okay. I did want to have Barbara, if you've got that list of email addresses. We had a snafu with email addresses, and somehow we got the wrong email address for Melanie. and I've ended up having to send her a bunch of information last Friday, right before this TAC meeting, that she should have gotten the same time that all the other TAC members ended up getting it. But
There
I
you
just wanted
go.
each TAC member to go through and verify that their email address is correct on this list, because this is the official list that Barbara uses to send out information.
Hmm. Does everybody see that?
Is anybody's email address wrong on that?
Can you make it a little larger, Barbara?
Sure. Hang on just a second. Whoa, went way too big on that one. Okay. There we go.
No,
There we go. Is that big enough or do we need it
no,
bigger?
ma'am, I'm sorry. I have very old eyes.
There we go.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
you're
That's
welcome.
good.
Okay.
Okay, mine's correct.
And Melanie, I apologize, but I may have been looking at
No
an
worries, no
older
problem.
list. It's
No,
okay.
yeah.
I had Melanie's correct email address in my computer, but I was just copying and pasting the link that Barbara sent stuff out on. So,
And it's
she
sometimes it's
wasn't getting
just a
it from me either.
transition. Yeah.
Uh, all right. I'm assuming that everybody's email address is correct that's in attendance today.
Mhm.
Okay, good. Good. Thank you, Barbara.
You're welcome.
Going back to the agenda, the next item up is the discussion of the DMS response to the MAC recommendation that we had forwarded out of this particular committee. I'm just going to summarize here rather than reading the entire response, because it's pretty lengthy. But basically, they understood our recommendation, understood what we were indicating around the need for a specific timeline in reference to termination process itself. They did indicate the same thing that we talked a little bit about, but we weren't tasked with as a committee in regards to the kind of loophole in regards to, well, if nobody else wants somebody that's been terminated, where do they go? And they've indicated they need to do a lot more work in regards to that, and they've indicated that they're going to basically gather more information in reference to involuntary termination, especially around services that don't involve residential services. So, you know, I think in response to that, which basically ends our work on the matter in reference to specific things that relate to that recommendation. You know, we did what we were tasked to do. We sent them ideas for them to consider. They are considering those ideas along with gathering more information and doing the work that they need to do to come to a more, I can't remember the term they used in the letter, a more holistic regulatory change. You know, they didn't indicate any timeframes or anything on that. So I think it's important to us as a committee to look at asking the question as we go along in these TAC meetings. Well, where are you at in regards to gathering this information, and where, you know, what things have you seen? You know, I think that will be something that's huge towards the progress we make as we look for a better involuntary termination process for all people that's involved whenever an involuntary termination occurs. With that, that's kind of all I had in reference to that particular agenda item. If anybody else has any feedback or any information they want to bring forward in regards to the response, and Corey, I know that you didn't have access to the written response prior to the meeting. Barbara is making arrangements and stuff to send that to you though, and you'll have it, because this won't be the last time we discuss it, I'm sure. It'll be discussed in future meetings as we move forward. And you'll be able to see a little bit more into, you know, the response from Medicaid and the other thing I encourage you to do is go back and watch some of the prior IDD TAC meetings so that you can get a good sense of some of the information that was discussed, because this has been a long-standing issue for this particular committee that has been discussed for you know, several years basically. I know at least 3 years the issue has been going on, and I just want to make you aware that those recordings are out there, and you can log on and view those if you choose to do so, to gather more background information into the particular issue itself. So anybody else have? Go ahead, Corey.
He says I will look back at those.
I did do not like even in the one was at the I know something has to be done.
Says I just don't like to leave someone without services. I know that something can be done.
I know the people at the people resolve at some point.
I know that this issue has to be resolved at some point.
Absolutely, Corey. And I think some of the same concerns that you have is concerns of other committee members as well. It's not something that is easily figured out. I think the thing that the committee was tasked with in regards to ideas, in regards to changing the process, I think we accomplished that. sent those ideas on to the MAC and forwarded on to Medicaid for their consideration. And they recognize the same hole that we recognize, that there's a missing element. And I know Johnny speaks to this a lot. I think I've heard Melanie speak to it a time or two in the past, and other people, that, hey, there's something missing in between, where somebody may not be appropriate or may not be successful, I should say, in amongst the traditional or PDS model SCL services. And where does that person go if there's no provider out there willing to serve them? And it's a huge question, and it's something that Medicaid recognizes as an issue, obviously, in their written response to us. So, you'll have that soon, and be able to see what they wrote in their response and so forth. So,
and I also get that call for the government was Medicaid.
Can I also get a copy of the committee?
What the
What the letter
from
from the committee to Medicaid?
you mean the recommendation that came through MAC and was forwarded on to? Yes, yes. Well, it's actually included in the letter. The recommendation itself is listed out. It's listed out, and then the DMS response is there in the letter. So you'll be able to see that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Wayne?
Sure, go ahead, Melanie.
And because I think this is so timely, because there's so many, as I referenced earlier, I'm an aging caregiver, so I'm sure there's all kinds of people out there that are worried about their loved ones. Is there a possibility of putting out a suggestion that maybe we work together with CMS and all parties to, like in a task force, to be able to share ideas?
I'm glad you're asking that, Melanie, because we've seen a pilot program the Kentucky Association of Private Providers did that Delaware is doing, and we really tried to get them to come on our TAC call and stuff for February. The schedules and stuff just didn't work out, and we couldn't have it. But it's something that we're looking at doing, is having them on during a future meeting and have them discuss a pilot program that's kind of in between an ICF level care versus, community-based waiver care. So it's kind of the in-between thing. And we were obviously going to invite, different Medicaid representatives to be a part of our meeting that particular time, whenever we can get them in here, so that it could be an idea, and could be maybe an option that they look at, something that could be a possibility in Kentucky. At this point, I think that's kind of what, as a committee, we're going to be reduced to, is looking at different ideas and stuff that we could possibly present to Medicaid as a possible solution. Go ahead, Ann.
What state did you say that was?
Delaware.
Delaware. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any other feedback or questions about the discussion of the DMS response to the MAC recommendation?
I was going to mention that I worked for a lot of years in Indiana, and they had a program that I believe was a waiver. It was not an intermediate care facility, but they were extensive support needs programs. So providers, in conjunction with the state, worked to develop a program where there were several of these homes throughout the state, where the funding model allowed for on-staff nursing and behavioral support, in addition to a staffing level for direct support professionals that supported the needs of the people who were living in those homes. There's several of those located throughout the state of Indiana. That happened after the state-run institutions were closed and some people were really struggling in community-based settings.
Thank you. We'll definitely we'll have Amy research the state of Indiana a little bit and see if we can pull some information out of there. But any other feedback? Okay, we've really not discussed anything today that we could formalize a recommendation out of. The next thing on the agenda would be MAC meeting representation. The next MAC meeting is this Thursday, actually. It happens at 10 a.m. and I will be in attendance for that particular meeting. I didn't see anything on the agenda for that particular meeting that would be worth mentioning on our particular call here today. So with that, I'll move on to our next meeting day, which is April the 7th, 2026, 10 a.m. via Zoom. Does anybody have anything before we close? Okay, everybody stay warm out there. It's extremely cold. I don't know if you've been outside much, but it is extremely cold. Stay warm and we'll see you next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.